Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I actually wasn't planning on doing this video at all. It wasn't on like my to-do list as far as videos go, but I was actually asked by somebody the other day if I had any tips on journaling. And they said that they've always wanted to get into journaling, but every time they sit down to write, they never know what to write about. Their mind goes blank. They just feel like they needed some tips for journaling, which I thought was really interesting because for me it just comes very naturally because I've journaled my whole entire life and it's really helped me get through a lot of hard times in my life. But I was like, you know what, I'm the perfect person to ask because I have so many journals that I've kept throughout my years. This is just gonna be kind of like a fun, more laid back video, nothing too serious or too structured or anything like that, but I thought it'd be fun to just kind of do a like discussion type of video, which I don't really ever do these, so hopefully it's kind of fun. So I actually have some coffee for this video. It's an iced coffee. It has like this really yummy coffee mixture that I bought at Grocery Outlet, and I just mixed it with like some drip coffee and almond milk with some ice. It's very, very good. And I have it in this cute little coffee mug, so that's what we're gonna be drinking today. And I'm going to talk journaling with you guys. All right, so this is one set of journals right here, but this is not all of them. And this is my other set of journals. So that is a lot of journals. I think every single one of my journals is here in this video. I actually dug them out of my garage to show you guys because I've kept every single journal that I've ever kept, including this little bad boy, which I wrote when I was 9. This is my first diary from when I was 9 years old. Can you guys believe it? I think it was in like 4th grade, which is super young. There's this journal entry in here that I was reading and I was laughing so hard because I remember writing this like it was yesterday. This was April 12th, 1995, so I was 9 years old. Dear Diary, today at school, me, Brittany, and Jamie played on the bars at recess. Today was a medium day. Some things were hard, some were nice and easy. Well, I have a secret I don't want anyone to know. I like someone named Jonathan. He is real cute. He acts on Home Improvement and a new movie, Man of the House. I told Jamie and Brittany, my 2 friends at school, they like him too, but I like him most of all. His whole name is Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He is so cute I could die. Is that not the most precious thing you've ever heard in your life? Because I think it is. So the first type of journal that I wanted to talk about is sentence a day journaling, and I already talked about this in a video a while ago. So if you guys want to watch that video, you definitely can because I talk all about it and I go into great depth. But these are my sentence a day journals. Yeah, 2006 to 2010. So it is like 4 years of my entire life in this one journal. And with sentence a day journaling, what you do is you just write one sentence every single day of what you did that day. And so this is literally 4 years of my life documented out exactly what I did every single day. And it is one of the most entertaining and interesting things to read. But I picked it up again about 2 years ago, as you guys know, when I made that video for you guys. And it's this one here. And I have been doing this one for, like I said, it's been about 2 years, September of 2017. And as you guys know, I collect my stickers in there randomly that I get. Can you guys believe it? This many pages already of sentences since the video that I made. This is almost filled up. I have some sketches right there just to kind of like switch things up a little bit. You guys know I like to draw. So I have sketches and stuff, so I wanted to keep this side plain so I could sketch if I wanted to or put any like scrapbooking things in there. When me and Elena and Travis put stuff in the fair, I saved our first place tickets and I put them in there. And yeah, it's just so interesting. There's another little drawing. But I absolutely love these journals. These are gonna be like my biggest keepsakes, and these are gonna be the things that I will love to pass down. So another really cool journaling technique would be bullet journaling, and that is very similar to the sentence a day journaling. And I personally have never gotten into bullet journaling. For me, bullet journaling is just a little bit too structured for my taste, and it's too perfect for my taste. I tend to get really bad anxiety when like I mess up on something that's supposed to be really perfect, and bullet journaling just gives me that feeling. Like if I was to do bullet journaling, I would get anxiety if I like messed up. So that's why I prefer something a little bit more loose and, you know, simple, because it's more just to document versus having everything be like structured and perfect. But you can always go that route if that's your personality type. You can definitely YouTube bullet journaling if that's what you're into. So the number 3 type of journaling is book journaling. Now this is something that I really like to do, but you could also do this with like working out if you want to kind of keep track of your workouts, or like food journaling if you're trying to keep track of your diet or your macros, or if you're just really into fitness. You could keep track of all sorts of different things with this specific type of journaling, but I personally kind of focus on books because I just like to read and I like to keep track of my books. So this is my book journal, and basically in this I have it written at the top what month it is and what year it is. And in that month, I write down every book that I read and the star rating. And each month has its own book list. Some months I only read 1 book. Some months I read like 4 or 5 books. It just depends on the month. But I really like this because I can keep track of it and I know that it's all written down. And then at the very end of the year, I write all of like my statistics. So in 2018, I read 14,145 pages. My shortest book was Fracture Me. My longest book was A Court of Wings and Ruin, which was 699 pages. My most hated book was The Sky is Everywhere by Jenny Nelson. My biggest disappointment was Shadow Song by S.J. Jones. I read 48 books last year. The best book of the year was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I read 1 1-star book, 4 2-star books, 12 3-star books, 17 4-star books, and 13 5-star books. The average length of my books were 294 pages. The average rating for 2018 was 3.8 stars. I read 15 adult books and 30 young adult books. And my favorite books of 2018, there's a list right here. So I put like all of my statistics and facts and just everything about my reading life goes in this journal. And I think it's so fun to look back on. And I think once this is filled up, I will have all the books that I've ever read in my entire life all in one journal, and that just makes me very satisfied. So one thing that I was really into for a while was art journaling, and art journaling was a thing that I was really into right before I discovered the beauty community on YouTube. I was very much into the art community, so I was really into art journaling videos and just artists and watching art videos. Like that was my community before I started the beauty community. But these were my art journals right here. And in art journals, it's basically just journaling through art with mixed media, using paper and paints and chalk and crayons and pencils and pens, glue, like whatever you want to use, but making art that expresses your feelings. So this is my art journal at the time. The fun thing about this is every page is different, which makes it really, really fun to look at. And I have some writing on the pages too, so you can like read the writing if you want. You don't have to make the writing too like personal, but each page like is slightly different. But I was so into this at the time. It was something that I did on my free time all the time, and I just enjoyed this so much. It's just a really fun, unique way of just getting your emotions down while being creative at the same time. So the next journal I want to talk about is this one, and this journal is like my nice journal. It's the journal that I put like poems that I write that I really like, or I don't know if you guys have ever read like Rupi Kaur or like Amanda Lovelace, those types of poems. It's like that modern poetry type of vibe where it's just like thoughts and like simple, quick poetry and things like that. All of that stuff goes in here, but I make sure that I really like it, that it's nice and edited, that I, you know, get my poems really like fleshed out, all that kind of thing. And then I put them in here and I write them as neatly as I can, so it's very like well done and nice. So this is like an unpublished poetry collection by me that I don't really plan on anyone reading, but it's like supposed to be more of a nice journal. So I don't just like scribble in this, and I really enjoy this one because I feel like this is kind of where my most like fleshed out ideas are. So the next type of journal is this one for me, and this one I actually didn't really fully finish, but it's one that's kind of like half done, which some of my journals are half filled out, but I don't really mind it because I feel like each journal is kind of a chapter of my life. Like I can pick up any of these journals and know exactly where I was in my life when I filled them out, which is very interesting, to be honest, because I'm like, oh yeah, that was this time in my life. That was this time in my life. So I kind of like that they kind of stop, and then I like start a new one when I am at like a different chapter. It just works for me. But this one was like a gratitude journal. So every single night before bed for a while, I was writing like 5 things I was thankful for that day, or 3 things that made me happy, or kind of like my highlights of the day, I guess you could say. So it's just kind of like positive affirmations in a way. It's kind of just reflecting on your day and trying to pick out the good things of the day. Even if it was a horrible day, like it forces you to find the good in the day. And I feel like gratitude journals are really, really good, especially if you're going through like a really hard time and you just like can't pull yourself out of the depths. A gratitude journal can help you at least a little bit kind of focus on the positive even in the most negative of situations. And it really does help. Like sometimes at the end of the day you're like, dang, like my life is actually really good. Like why am I complaining so much, or why am I so down? Like I have so much to be grateful for. And sometimes too, if you get into like the worst moods ever, or something is just really, really hurting you in some way, or you're just in a very difficult place in life, picking up your gratitude journal and then reading it, like going back and reading old entries and just kind of reading your very own gratitude journal, you can almost put into perspective how many things in your life you can be thankful for and grateful for, and it can help boost your mood a little bit in those really low moments. So last but not least is your basic emotional spill journals. So these journals are the journals that you just pour your problems, your thoughts, your emotions into, and you just use it for therapy versus any other reason. It's not necessarily for documentation. It's more for therapy and therapy alone. And that is a majority of what my journals are. And I've been literally doing this since I was in high school. So it's just kind of how I've always gotten my feelings out, because I am somebody that just like turns inward. When you're an introvert, I feel like journaling is the best way to get out your feelings, because I know for extroverts, they go to friends and they spill their guts, right? They tell them all of their feelings, they tell them all their emotions, they tell them everything going on in their head and in their life, and that's what makes them feel better, and that's what makes them feel like they got all of the jumbled mess in their mind out. I can't do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. So writing it down in a journal makes me feel like I'm organizing my crazy introverted mind and getting it down on paper so it's not just a jumbled mess. And I feel like it's the best way to do that. Because if I just let those thoughts, go crazy and just remain free in my mind, that's what causes me anxiety, because it's just too much. I'm just thinking and I'm thinking and I'm thinking and I'm thinking and I'm trying to process it all. But once you get it down on paper, it's down. And so it's almost like you just take it all out of your head and put it somewhere else, if that makes sense. It's like this weird psychology thing where you almost feel like you remove it from yourself and you put it somewhere else. And if you need to visit that idea or those problems, you can, because it's down, but you don't have to have it in there anymore. And I think that's why journaling can be so therapeutic for introverts. So I have so many journals. This journal was my first journal actually that sent me onto the path of journal bliss. This was like the one I started when I was probably like a freshman or sophomore, and ever since I did this one, I've been journaling ever since. This journal is a very interesting one. This one was from when I was in the hospital for my eating disorder. One of the most interesting things though, and why I encourage people to start journaling from a young age, is because it's so interesting to see how different of a person you are from when you're in like high school versus when you're 33. Like one thing that you'll notice if you were to read my journals is I was so emotionally driven when I was like in high school. Like everything was extremely emotionally charged. I was so dramatic. I was so, like everything was the end of the world. And I could tell too, I was very mentally immature. A lot of the things that I would talk about, like looking back now, I'm like, back then, like I thought I was being very logical and very rational, but looking back, I wasn't at all. That's just how you are when you're young, when you're in high school. Like your mind isn't fully developed yet. You see the world through a much more immature lens, and you're not really that wise, so you don't have a lot to go off of when you're in high school. And so it's a really interesting comparison from now to then. So for those of you who need some, journaling tips, my biggest tip for you, and this is something that I tell everybody, this is the most important thing. And if you're a perfectionist like me, then it's really, really hard, especially if you get a journal like this. Like these leather-bound journals are very expensive. They're not cheap, they're leather-bound, they have like these really nice things. And so you open up these really nice journals, right? And it's perfectly crisp and clean, and it was expensive, you spent your money on it, and you go to write and you feel like you have to be perfect. You feel like you can't mess up this perfect journal. You have to sound intelligent. You have to have perfect grammar. You have to have perfect handwriting. You have to have perfect spelling. But my biggest tip for you is like, take your journal, okay? And this is like the hardest part, but I'm serious. Just do it. Take your journal, open it up to like the middle of the book, right? The middle page. Take a pen or a pencil and scribble all over it. Just scribble over the middle of a page and be like, there you go. There's my first entry, I scribbled. And that just unperfectifies your journal. Is that a word, perfectifies? And so now your journal is no longer perfect. So now you can just go in and just start writing. Handwriting doesn't matter, spelling doesn't matter, grammar doesn't matter. This is not for other people to read. Nobody is watching. You just want to fill it out and go crazy. Like sometimes I write from the corner down, sometimes I write upside down and up, and sometimes my handwriting is so bad I can't even read it. Don't try to be perfect with it, and the second you let that perfectionism go, the more you're gonna get out of journaling. So my next tip would be to time yourself. Now, this is something that I've actually learned to do recently versus, a long time ago. I never used to time myself because I had a lot of time when I was a teenager. Like I just had a lot of time on my hands. But now that I'm a mom, like I have short spurts of time throughout my day where I can either read or journal or do whatever it is that I wanna do, but it's usually a short spurt. So I know that I have a short amount of time and I need to do what I need to do and then move on with my life, right? So I feel like when you time yourself, you give yourself a certain amount of time and it's not too overwhelming. Like you don't feel like you have to write every single thought in your head down to make your journal entry complete. It's more just like free writing as fast as you can in a 5-minute time period, and you'd be surprised at the kind of things that come out. If there's something bothering you a little bit at the moment, or you're feeling a little bit of anxiety about this thing or this thing, writing just for 5 minutes as fast as you can and getting as much as you can down can be really therapeutic, but it's a good way to get yourself started. It's not overwhelming. You know that right when the time starts, you have to start and you just have to start going, and even if nothing comes out, nothing of like purpose, it doesn't matter because it was only 5 minutes, it's fine. So that's a really good way to kind of get started, and it's a really good way to kind of discover maybe some things going on in your head that you weren't really aware of. Next tip is to date your journals. This is something that I do now more than I used to do when I was younger. In my younger journals, I have some dated ones, so I kind of have an idea of when. I just find dating to be very handy when you go back in time and you read your old journals. You can kind of know where you were at that time in your life. So my next tip would be to journal while you're traveling, and I think that this is a really, really good tip, and it's something that I highly recommend you do is to bring a journal with you when you vacation, because if you've ever noticed, when you are on a vacation for like fun versus work, you have a lot of time to just think and to just kind of relax and chill. It's laying by the pool, or you're sitting in your hotel room, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you have a lot of time for introspection. And I feel like this is the perfect time to journal. So you can bring your journal down with you to the pool. You can journal in your bedroom or on the back patio of your hotel, whatever it is you want to do, but I feel like it's the perfect time for introspection and reflection, and I find that that is when I do a lot of my thinking, is when I'm traveling. So the next tip would be to look for prompts online or questions. Now you can, go on Pinterest and type in like journaling prompts, but you could also just look up like deep questions. And I have a board on my Pinterest for questions, and I actually use it for me and Chelsea. Me and Chelsea do this really funny thing where like go through lists of questions when we're traveling. Like we always go to Portland together, so we're in the car for like 2.5 hours or 3 hours. So we print off questions and we answer questions with each other, like what we think about a certain thing, or we talk about like, do you believe in soulmates? Do you believe in astrology? What's your biggest fear as a mom? Or just any type of question we just answer together. And so I pinned a whole bunch of questions that I wanted to print off for our next girls trip. And so just having a list of questions and just using those prompts every once in a while can be a huge help. Plus it's really fun to kind of reflect on those questions and just think like, what is my biggest fear as a mom? You know what I mean? And I think it's really fun to kind of just use those prompts for inspiration. And you don't even have to write like a whole page. You could write like a small paragraph. And I think it's a really, really fun way to exercise your mind in a kind of different and creative way without just like spilling out emotions. And another really cool thing too is you could use this style of journaling as its own journal in itself. Like get a writing prompt journal or a questions journal where you write a question at the top and you answer the question in journal form. And I actually have a journal that is just writing prompts. That's what this was alone, and it kind of ended up being something else at the end, but this does have some really interesting stuff in there of just stuff that I wanted to get down on paper, and I really like that as well. It's another really kind of cool way to, you know, get all your thoughts down, and another type of journaling that you could do if you want to make it separate. My last tip is to be truthful. Nobody is watching you, and I think it's really easy to want to hold back when you do your, you know, emotional journaling, but don't hold back. And if it makes you feel better, just hide them. Hide them in a place where nobody can find them. You know, if you do have a friend of yours and you worry that people are going to read these journals when you die or something like that, say, your job is to take these journals and to burn them. I don't want people reading them, and I just use this for my own therapy. You know, keep these ones, but burn these ones. It's the best thing to do, and it's the most rewarding way of doing it, is to be truthful. Don't hold anything back. And that's where you're gonna get the most growth and kind of like, I guess, the most therapeutic rewards. So that is it, you guys. That is kind of like my journaling timeline and just kind of how I've journaled, my tips, and kind of some things that I do when I practice journaling. Like I said, journaling can be a very, very therapeutic thing, and you can do it in all sorts of different ways. You can be very creative with it, or you can just stick to the more simple types of things. But one thing that I'll never regret is doing my sentence a day journaling, my book journaling, and then also my like poetry journaling where I have like my very serious thoughts and poetry. I think that'll be really fun to have as well. So I hope this video was helpful, and I hope it was kind of fun to just kind of chit chat about journaling, something that I don't normally do on this channel. But I was actually watching Nikki Phillippi, and I've been watching her for years, but she started doing just like very chill videos where she just sits down and like talks, and they're fun to watch, especially when you're like doing your makeup. You can just listen to somebody talk for, you know, 40 minutes. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a good day. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. Today I went to school. I did not go to PE, and I bet you know why, because I have a cough. When everybody came in from PE, they were breathing hard, so I was glad I didn't go. I can't wait till Halloween because it's tomorrow, and we dress up in our costumes for school. My cousin Chelsea is going to be a bride. I still have a lot more stuff to be, so I don't have to worry. When I get home, I went to my first jazz class. It was hard because you have to move your hips a lot. I have a lot of friends in that class, like Laura and Monica and Michelle, and the other Michelle and Marlena. When I got back home, I ate, watched Rugrats, then Doug, then Clarissa Explains It All. I have to go, bye-bye. Oh. I know there's one in here about Jonathan Taylor Thomas and how I was really jealous because somebody was gonna send him pictures and I didn't want him to like them. Because I thought like it was dead serious that like if somebody sent Jonathan Taylor Thomas a picture, like he would end up liking them. Like, how dare they?